The newest addition on the defensive side of the ball has put Boston College in an area of weakness to a real area of strength.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for Boston College news, analysis, and details on your Eagles, you are in the right place. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game. All right, on today's show, Bill O'Brien is on his podcast, talks about a position that he feels strongly about. It's one that surprised me, and I'll explain what I mean by that. BC has their new running backs coach, and I'm excited. This is the best hire Bill O'Brien has made so far, and we have one more addition to the transfer portal class. And let's get into that. Let's kick it off. So earlier this week, I told you there was two more additions that we've heard about through the transfer portal. We knew that I said there's going to be one on the offensive side of the ball, which sounds like it's still going to happen. And then there's someone on the defensive side of the ball. Well, on Thursday, we found out who on the defensive side of the ball was going to be. And it's linebacker Justin Medlock out of SMU. This is another Power 4 player. This is another Power 4 player that played quite a bit of snaps. Now, you look at his snap counts for this year. He played 250 snaps at linebacker. But from week, I think 7 or 8 to 12, he didn't play. So it was like, he missed some time. He missed some time there. And I don't know if I would assume it was on injuries. We don't have the details on that. But Pro Football Focus grade of about a 70. That's really good. I know folks continue to use the high school analogy for grades. It's not that. That's not how it works. And he's a really intriguing linebacker. 6 feet tall. He was originally committed to originally playing for Utah. Played 2 seasons there. Then comes over to SMU. Plays a little bit, I think, 2 years ago. Comes and plays more this year. And then enters the portal again. He's originally from Texas, Manville, Texas, I believe he was from. And you look at his offer list coming out of high school. This was a guy with offers from everywhere, from LSU to Miami to Arizona State to Utah to TCU, Baylor. Like, he had a huge offer list. He's played. He's experienced. He's on his 4th or 5th year. He's not going to be a high school body. Again, another veteran for Bill O'Brien. This philosophy continues with Justin Medlock. You need to get experienced guys here. And I whether the guys work out or not. And I could I think that you say the situation is going to work or it's not going to work, whatever. Going with this philosophy of getting guys in that have been on campus for 3 years plus, are going to be on their 3rd year, is a smart one, because you have a better hit rate of getting guys either for depth or to start if they have been playing a lot, unless they're blue chip recruits, and you're not bringing blue chip recruits to BC. So Medlock again falls into that category, and this is the 3rd linebacker. Now, just take a step back and look at the difference between the linebacker unit from last year to this year. You had last year Bam Crouch, who played 3 games, gets hurt, and then we don't see him again until the Notre Dame game, and then he shuts it down and enters the portal. Whatever. He was supposed to be a team captain. He was going to be the leader on your defense. Didn't work out. You also had Owen McGowan, who played the same role that Joe Marinaro played the year before, where he tried his best. This is a guy that was limited defensively in terms of speed. Very smart guy, and did his best out there. But when you're playing superior athletes, he just could not do it. And by the end of the year, where I say he's like Joe Marinaro, he had so many injuries, you didn't even know what to even categorize them as. He was just hurt constantly. that was what you had. And then you had a bunch of young guys and Bryce Steele. And this is not a knock on Bryce Steele, but we all know the medical piece of what he had to go through. It was a lot. And to expect him to be, the star linebacker on your team, I think is a kind of an unfair assumption to make. So you had him. Jalen Blackwell was gone. You had to go towards near the end of the year. You had Kamori Dixon, but he got hurt. You had Griffin Collins, but he was a true freshman. Now look at the line. So you have all that. That's just a mess. And it really kind of exemplified how bad the defensive depth looked last year, because you were just missing so much in terms of that depth. I think BC did a really nice job of addressing this is in the portal. Whether it's going to be at a higher level or not, we'll have to wait to see, right? I'm not going to say it is, or I'm not going to say it isn't, because I want to see more from them, spring practice, whatever. You have 3 new transfers coming in. You brought in Bodie Cahoun from he is from Notre Dame. Thank you. Getting stuck in my brain here. I need my list next to me. I didn't do it. I apologize. Bodie Cahoun hasn't played a ton, but I'm telling you, I've talked to multiple Notre Dame beat writers, and they said this is the highest athlete. One of the best athletes they had in the linebacking room. He just was buried by NFL level players. So he's going to be fine. He's going to be a good player, I think. I don't know how high that's going to get, but Bodie Cahoun, I think, is going to be pretty good. You bring in Medlock. Medlock is an upper class, solid player who is just looking to get that. He's right there to be that starter, right? Played 250 snaps this past year and limited in 8 games. He played a little special teams. You got him. And then you have Anthony Falano from Washington State, who played a bunch too, and then didn't see the field near the end of the game, or was more of like a situational player for the Cougars by the end of the season. 3 players that really, I think, added juice to your spot. And I think Medlock might be the best of all of them. Honestly, like he's going to probably be, I would imagine he's probably going to be the guy that will get one of those starting spots. So your linebacking group is looking a lot deeper, because you have these 3. Then you add in that you have, Griffin Collins and Kamori Dixon and Palawe Fahoa. Like you have some, and then Steve Klein, the true freshman that's coming in. You've built in a linebacking room that is going to look drastically different than last year. Remember, when I walked into practice last year, my jaw dropped to the floor with how thin they were at linebacker. In the spring, Dixon was out. Bam was out. McGowan was out. Like they were, that's the reason why Von Pemberton was playing linebacker, was because they had nobody. They had Tim Hayes, a preferred walk-on who entered the portal, Billy Van Pelt and Von Pemberton out there. You shouldn't have that issue this year. They've built up the depth. And this is where you start to see that now that you have the depth, this is where hopefully your improvements will happen, because you can find the 2 best. If you're going 2 linebackers, you find the 2 best linebackers that you need for your interior linebackers, and you play them. And that could be any of those 3 new guys. It could be Griffin Collins, but you have options. You didn't have options last year. You played Bam Crouch and Owen McGowan, and if Bryce Steele was okay, you played him for a couple snaps too, but you had no depth. That has changed, and I think that's a testament that you brought in all these guys, and you could have gone out there. Listen, you brought in guys that all have good, decent snap counts under their belts, or like with Bodie, he's I think his 3rd year, so he's an older guy. You could have gone out there and got a 4-star, redshirt freshman, but is that going to help you next year? No. Most of those redshirt freshmen, they need another year. You needed guys now. You needed guys because you lost your entire roster. You needed these guys that have been around, that can jump in immediately and build that depth. That's what they did. Whether it works or not, we'll have to wait and see. Prove it. Again, that's my motto. Now, in a moment, let's go on to the coaching search, as BC had to find a new running backs coach. They got one, and I am actually pretty thrilled about this guy. I'll tell you why in just a moment. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game of the playoffs, because right now, every college football playoff game, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. That's what I love about it. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. Ride with the favorite when you think a team controls the matchup. Take a shot on the underdog if you feel an upset coming on, or turn it into a parlay and really dive in. Now, apply the profit boost and go after even bigger winnings, and when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every single game. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here. And let me just tell you all, I'll do a quick little thing here. If you are a diehard, if you enjoy Locked on BC, some of you have been jumping in the comments telling me how much you like the show. Take your fandom to the next level. Become part of our Everydayer Club. We have a basic tier that gets you into our Discord, which if you don't know what a Discord is, just think of it like your group chat. Like you got your buddies that you talk BC with and you chat about it. That's exactly what Discord is. But with BC fans from all over the place, or college football fans. You want to go talk smack to the Syracuse fans? You can go do that. It's fun. You also get ad-free episodes. You get, all sorts of little perks there. If you really want to take your game to the next game to the next tier, you go to our Everydayer All Access Club. I just did a 10-minute extra episode. You get texts, you get all sorts of good stuff, and you get text from me. Excuse me, I should be clear about that. The Discord and everything I said about the basic plan. If you haven't done it yet, try signing up. I think you'll enjoy it. Now, let's get into the coaching change, because middle to late last week, found out that Savon Huggins was leaving Boston College to become the new running backs coach for Penn State. It was finalized this week. They announced it. He is now at Penn State, and he's already trying to get recruits that BC were going after, like Isaiah Rogers at Springfield Central. So that's fun. But BC had to make a hire. And I was a little worried because, I love Kurt Anderson so far. He's doing a good job on the recruiting trail. Joe Daly's fine, but didn't spark anything when you heard about those guys, right? And that's not a knock on Anderson, because he's got a huge resume, and I think he's going to be fine. I was worried about this one because Savon Huggins was probably one of your better coaches. He was in 247's 35 under 35 coaching club. He's a pretty good recruiter for running backs. He had New Jersey roots. He had all these things that you wanted him to stay around, but you knew it was going to end at some point, right? Well, BC makes their hire, and they hired Mike Hart, who used to be the running backs coach for Michigan. He was also a Doak Walker finalist for Michigan, and another really well thought of guy. This is a guy that came from they were, coming from Syracuse. He originally came from the Syracuse area, played for Michigan, comes out, becomes part of Jim Harbaugh's coaching staff, and he won a national championship with Sherrod Moore. He had 1 year off in 2022 because he had a seizure on the sideline during a game, which was scary. I still remember this. He returned soon after that year, but needed 2024 to recharge and take care of his health. He last year worked for Eastern Michigan. He was an associate head coach and an analyst. And he was kind of just locked in there. So he didn't do much last year, but it was kind of just like a rebound year for him. Now, you look at the running backs. I mean, Michigan's, if you want to rip on them for their quarterback play, you can do that. But their running backs have been tight for years. They've been nice. You know what I mean? Like these, whether it's Donovan Edwards or Blake Corum, they've had some other guys that I don't really know. Jordan Marshall. They've had some really good running backs. Like Blake Corum was awesome. If you don't remember Blake Corum, I think he's on the Rams now. He was his positional coach. So you're bringing in a guy with championship with champion pedigree, who's worked with some really good running backs and helped develop them. Also, if you look at his recruiting chops, he's really good. I think he's more the Midwest. So you have New Jersey, but you already got Jersey. Parts of Jersey already covered with Joe Daly. I know Savon and he had like different. I forget who was in the South, but one was doing one was doing the other. But this is more Midwest, so it's interesting to see if I'm sure he's probably going to stick in that area. But you get Kurt Anderson, who also has that specialty. So BC's recruiting maps continue to change because now you have Dibbs, Jonathan DiBiaso, who does New England. That's in quarterbacks wherever they are. That's kind of his thing. And he also does California, parts of California. You have wide receivers coach Joe Daly, who does parts of New Jersey. You have running backs coach, as I just said, the Midwest. Then Jordan Thomas is, I forget exactly where I want to say like North Carolina, that area. But you have Corey Robinson, DMV, that he's been a big reason why they're back in St. Francis Academy again. And you get that kind of flair. And then on top of that, you have Kenyatta Watson, who knows everybody down south, Florida, Georgia. Like he, if you want to talk about opening up that area, Watson is huge there because if you were not watching today, like Kenyatta Watson offered like 9 kids from Grayson High School in Georgia, which is, if not the best school in the country in terms of high school football, like one of the top 3. So he's going to open up some more doors there. It's going to change that map. And so adding Mike Hart definitely changes this. And I said this to kind of preface this whole comment here. This hire, to me, is one of my favorite hires Bill O'Brien has made since he's been here. Like, one of the big things that I have, not that I don't like, but the parts of the things that he has done is I haven't been like blown away by his positional coaches. He brings his buddy Will Long as the offensive coordinator. I had no idea who Tim Lewis was, and I still don't know. You brought in Jeff Commission, who was like at the FBS level at that point. Dave O'Brien is fine. Dan O'Brien is fine, but again, like not like super like exciting. This is like this is an exciting hire. Mike Hart is an exciting hire, and it kind of bucks the trend of some of the things he's doing. Like we see, he hired Joe Daly because he kind of got recommendations from him. Kurt Anderson knew Doug Marrone. This I cannot figure out the connection between Mike Hart and Bill O'Brien. Someone could probably figure it out for me, but I have not figured it out. So maybe he found a guy that he thought was really good and did what, who is it? The new head coach at Florida that said, I'm not just hiring my friends, I'm hiring the best coaches. I love that philosophy. Like, just don't hire your buddies, hire good coaches. They'll figure it out. So I think this was even better than expected. Like, honestly, Mike Hart is right there or above Savon Huggins. Like, this is that good, right? This is a very strong hire for Boston College, and their staff is complete again. Will another coach get poached? I just rhymed there, Dr. Seuss. Could. You never know. Corey Robinson has experience. Maybe some team likes Jonathan DiBiaso. I don't see Will Long going anywhere, but who knows? But right now, the staff is filled. And in terms of staffing, too, it's interesting. We heard all about Ryan Bartow coming to BC, and we heard about the drama, and it just never happened. They announced it. They deleted everything. He was going to be the assistant general manager under Kenyatta Watson. He doesn't come in. And now Julian Rowe Cohen, who was director of high school recruiting. Then like 2 weeks ago, I looked at his profile. He was the director of player personnel, and now he's assistant general manager. So there's been some changes there as well. Oh, Matt Turn's the other one that I could see possibly getting taken, especially if Jeff Hafley takes the job. Would he take Turn back with him? That would be interesting. And speaking of coaching, I should probably, while we're here, talk about Jeff Hafley. For Boston College fans, how crazy is it that you had a coach that all of us wanted, and me included, didn't think was the right fit here? Didn't seem like he was a very capable head coach, quits, goes and does a good job for Green Bay, and now he's the most sought after head coach candidate other than John Harbaugh in this pool. He's going to get his choice of jobs, which right now sounds like the Miami Dolphins. But that is crazy how quickly things can change. And people are not dumb. Like, he said the part that he hated most was that he didn't have I think he said that it was tough with the resources that he had, and B, he hated doing like what the GM's going to do. And he's not going to be the GM. He's just going to be the coach. He likes coaching. That's what he's going to do. So Jeff Hafley, I cannot believe he's going to be, this is a guy, I was talking about Storyland with him at press conferences and things like that, or after press conferences. And now he's going to be an NFL head coach. Well, and weird things happen, right? Well, speaking of head coaches, Bill O'Brien talked about a position that he feels he's got a lot of talent at. And I think you want to hear which one he said, because I thought it was really interesting. We'll get into that in just a moment. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. And thank you all who have made Locked On Boston College part of your daily routine. I appreciate each and every one of you who listens to Locked On Boston College, in the gym or on the way to work. Do appreciate all your dedication to my show. So Bill O'Brien had his podcast with John Mita Perrell, and once you get past the talking about baseball and the Red Sox and Shohei Ohtani and other things that I don't care about, just being blunt. His talk about BC stuff is always fascinating, though. That's why I tuned in and kind of skip around to find that part. And I thought he talked about the transfer portal. He talked about how it's speed dating and it's really fast, and they have like a board that they rank guys and adjust it based off of, we can't get him, or this guy's off the board, whatever. But one thing that he brought up when he's kind of diving in, he went position by position to talk about who they have and whatnot. One of the things that he brought up was the edge rushers, as he called them defensive ends. And that he said, and I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but we have a lot of good talent there. I'm really excited. We have a lot of good guys there. I hope so, because last year you didn't. And I think there was a few things that went on there. You lost Donovan Azarico in 2024. He graduated. He's obviously with the Dallas Cowboys. And don't look up his police report from last week, because nothing happened there. But you were left with Quintavious Hutchins, who I think is a solid number 2 guy. And you had either FCS guys that needed time to grow, or younger guys that just weren't ready yet, and Edwin Kalinke. That was basically what you had. And the pass rush last year was completely irrelevant. It was not there unless Tim Lewis blitzed the house. And I thought it was one of the biggest issues you had, because we continue to talk about how cyclical it was, that you couldn't get a pass rush. You had your young secondary that was put on an island because you had to blitz, and you weren't able to do anything because your defense was just broken. So for him to say that, yes, I have to preface this by saying, you listen to it, you see the way every coach makes these podcasts sound, they sound like they're ready to go to the Sugar Bowl. I get that. I just hope that what he's saying has a nugget of truth. I think they may. Chris, the new guy, Chris Jones? I always forget, is it Chris Jones or Chris? Yeah, Chris Jones. The edge, I think could be really good. I liked what Ela Boykin looked like at the end of last year. Favorite Bate had points. I think Israel Oladapupo. It's Oladapupo. I got to make sure I get his name right. Looked good in limited snaps, but he could be getting up there and ready to go. And then you have Anya Nwisi, who they redshirted. So maybe maybe he has a nugget of truth there. It can only go up. It can't get, I guess it could get worse, but it doesn't seem like something that could get worse, right? Like, you were it was so, the pass rush was so inconsistent to invisible that anything you're going to get is going to be a plus. You brought in Demetrius Ballard, you brought in Chris Jones. You're hoping that you're thinking that things are going to get better. And I think they will. I think that that's the piece. And I'm interested to see how Ted Roof sees this group and adjusts to it. Because we saw what Tim Lewis tried. Maybe Ted Roof has something else now that you have a linebacking group, you have some talent up front, you have some things. You could maybe get things to go a little better. But, again, I bring this one nugget up, but if you listen to him, he's like, yeah, the running backs look great. The wide receivers are awesome. Or the offensive line's new, but it's good. It was interesting. I did also think it was kind of interesting too. He actually did mention Reed Harris and Turbo Richard by name. A lot of times with these coaches, once a guy's gone, they're like, I wish them well. And then they don't talk about it. He actually mentioned it to him that I believe he said with Turbo, he had an opportunity that he couldn't turn down. He took it. Good luck to him. And Reed Harris, something about, I think it sounded to me, if I remember correctly, he mentioned something about a financial upgrade. I think that was something in that realm, which doesn't surprise me, but that's where things are at. Now, before we head out, a lot of the transfers are now finding spots. If you've seen me on Twitter, I tweet about it, but it's good to talk about it too. The school that's going to become BC Light is Troy, of all places, who has landed Ty Clemens, defensive lineman, and Bryce Steele. Interesting spot. Ty Clemens makes a lot of sense because he's from Alabama. Bryce Steele, he's from North Carolina. Maybe that makes more sense. They're going there. Edward Kalengi ended up at Vanderbilt, so the Power 4 guy. Stevie Ayers at UCLA. There's a few other guys that have started to find their spots. Ashton McShane's at Liberty. But I don't, other than like Nate Johnson, I feel like most guys have already found a home, and that you're not seeing a lot of players that haven't found a new landing spot. So I'm looking. Owen Stodmeyer is going to probably end up at Nebraska. Ismail Samore. No. Alex Brim has not found a place. Just going through my list. Ty Clemens. Yep. Nate Johnson. Sterling Sanders is the other one. Has not found a place yet. But otherwise, most of these guys are finding spots. So this wraps up our episode. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Boston College part of your daily routine. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out on Instagram. Check me out on TikTok. I love TikTok. I'm getting into it. I break news on there. I do all sorts of fun stuff. I'm enjoying the video medium. As you guys can see here, much more. I got my setup. I got all sorts of great stuff going on here. So thank you all. Join the Everydayers Club. I'd love to see you over there. And I'll see you again on Monday for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.